we started reading the last part of the Gospel of Mark by reading the verse 15 in the chapter 16 of Mark. So the Gospel of today is Mark 16, the last chapter, verses from 15 to 20. 20 is the last one. But I want to read what there was before the verse 15, because the verse 15 starts with Jesus giving the mission to the apostles. What did Jesus said before? What he said in verse 14 is exactly this one. As the 11 were at table, he appeared to them and rebuked them for their unbelief and hardness of heart, because they had not believed those who saw him after he had been raised. So we read a very positive gospel, but right after Jesus rebuking the apostles. Why? Not because they abandoned him, because yes, they really abandoned him. Not because they denied him, because they denied him. Peter denied Jesus. Not only that, the Gospel of Mark is the only one who uses for the denial of Peter another kind of verb. He uses anathematizein. He says that Peter anathematizein Jesus. Anathema, it's a verb that maybe you heard. Anathema is when you are cast out of the church, of the synagogue, because you're not good, you're doing something wrong. It means that you are cursed. You're cursed. Anathematizein means to curse somebody. So Peter cursed Jesus, which means he said bad things of him. Probably to convince that servant, that woman who was asking him, you're part of them. You're together with the man of Nazareth. And to be believed, he started saying bad things against Jesus. Only Mark says that. Jesus, after this, he says for the first time, after his death, the apostles and Peter, and he doesn't rebuke them for that. He only rebuked them because they did not believe. Practically the same problem that we have. To believe to Jesus and to believe to the gospel. To believe to the gospel, it doesn't mean, oh yes, the gospel is true, the gospel is not true. It's not only that. It's to believe the gospel just in the way that it is. Because yes, we know that gospel, in Greek, evangelion, is a good news. What's the good news? Not only that Jesus is risen. Yes, that is something that is nice, is good, is very nice also for his mother. Not only that. Not only also that we've been saved. No, we are all saved. We are all saved. There is something more in this. The gospel is a good news because it's telling you that no matter what you did, God loves you unconditionally. No matter what wrong you did in your life, your sin is forgiven. Somebody might think, and I heard many people saying this, oh, God will never forgive me for what I did. This is not coming from God. Because the gospel says exactly the contrary, that the opposite, that everyone is forgiven, no matter what happened in your life. And so why we read, and in what sense we read, whoever believes and is baptized will be saved. Whoever does not believe will be condemned. This doesn't mean that if you believe, you go to hell. If you don't believe, you go to hell. Because if it is so it is not true the thing that God the Father wants to save all his children. So what does it mean? Well, it means that if you believe to the gospel, you will be freed inside. This is the first salvation that is for you if you believe in the gospel. And yes, of course, not believing to the gospel, it's like, being still a slave of what is opposite to the gospel. So when we think about the gospel, it's not only like joining a team. Jesus didn't say to the apostles, now you go for the mission and I want us to win the championship because we want to be the best religion in the world. This is not what Jesus wanted. And this is not what Jesus wants today. Jesus is not asking us proselytism. A proselyte is somebody who is getting close to a religion and then eventually joins the religion. But Jesus criticized this. He was talking to the Pharisees. He said, you will go through the desert and you will climb mountains for only one proselyte. Jesus is not asking for numbers. He's only asking to the disciples to be witness, real witness of the love of God by loving themselves. This is what he said. They will recognize you if you love each other. If you don't love each other, our mission is a failure. And sometimes it is for this reason. Because we miss the point. But really, if you learn how to love, because of the gospel, that is your salvation. And if you don't learn how to love, then yes, that is our condemnation. But God will be always ready for you, just like He was always ready, even for Judas. I like always to say that He even gave to Judas communion. It was Jesus. Somebody could ask to Jesus, could question Jesus, why did you give communion to Judas? He had already a price for you. He had in his mind the price to sell Jesus. And he was about to leave to do that. And he received communion. Because Jesus is communion. He is communion with everybody. And sometimes He wants to enter in your heart to convince you. Yes, sometimes, even though you are not totally ready, but you have that desire for Jesus. If this desire is a real desire, and you want to be in communion with Jesus, and you know that will help you to be a better Christian, you can really go for communion. Then you tell the confessor what you did, and you will be totally fine. Because Jesus wants your heart. And He wants us to share with everybody this message of the gospel. Because the gospel is accompanied, this gospel says, by certain signs. Well, first of all, the gospel will help us to cast out demons. Well, we are not exorcists here, not even myself. It takes a bishop or somebody in charge by the bishop to be able to be an exorcist, right? So what does it mean here? That the signs that will accompany those who believe will be, one of those will be to drive out demons. Well, there are many demons to drive out. Well, first of all, the demon of pride, the demon of the love for money, the demon of division, the demon of hatred, the demon of lust, the demon that brings in your family that division after you tried to make the division because your dad died, and then you no longer speak to your brother, to your sister because of money. That is a demon that you need to drive out. And if you believe to the gospel, you can do it, because the gospel is telling you, be free from all these earthly things, from your interests. Because the most important thing is to keep the love of your brother, of your sister. That is the most important thing. And then another sign is to speak new languages. Yes, the gospel is to speak a new language, not English or Spanish, but to speak new languages, the language of the gospel, the language that Jesus spoke. You know, he was betrayed and he went in the place where his supposedly disciples, let us say, were, and instead of cursing them because he could do that, no, he said, peace be with you. This is the new language of the gospel. They will pick up serpents with their hands, and if they drink any deadly thing, it will not harm them. I don't see anybody here with a snake in his hands. Not even myself. I ever touched a snake. I remember once I saw, when I was a child, I ran away. So what does it mean? Yeah, there are serpents, there are poisons, because there is evil in this world. And the world will do anything to touch you with that evil thing. And you need to be careful. You need to recognize that evil. There are bad things out there. Well, for you, also for your kids. There is drug out there. There is pornography. There is alcohol. There are things that are poisonous. And you know, evil is trying to enter, even with its mentality, to enter from the door. And if you shut the door, it will enter from the window, from your TV, from your cell phone. It will enter from anywhere. But Jesus says, if you believe to the gospel, you will be safe. Why you will be safe? You know, that part of the gospel when Jesus says, you know, what if you go to a town and they will not accept what you are saying, what you are announcing, the gospel that you are announcing, shake from your clothes the dust and go away. It's not saying that you shake the dust again against them to curse them. No, it's to shake, because, you know, if you try to bring the gospel in this world, maybe it is not you who will convince the world, but it will be the world that will convince you. So some of the ideas of the world might stick on you, on your ideas, without you to realize it. So be careful that you shake those ideas. And every day, every night, if you do your exam of conscience, well, you'll be able to discern those ideas that are not coming from God for you, for your family. And maybe you will be able to shake them away. And then they will lay hands on the sick and they will recover. Yes, we are talking about, yes, sometimes we receive some miracle from God. But here Jesus is talking about the diseases of the soul. And yes, you can realize that when you come to church, yes, your soul is at peace. Because Mass is a moment of rest. And sometimes, yes, if you come here and if you have inside some problem, some spiritual problem, you might realize that the communion with Jesus can heal you inside. This is the gospel that Jesus gave to us, and then he ascended. Ascension is a moment of glory for Jesus, and is the moment when God the Father says, this man that is considered a loser for the world, this man that lost everything, this man that the people thought, this one, he wanted to be the Messiah, he wanted to be the King of Israel, he pretended to be the Son of God himself, and then he died in the worst way. This is what everybody thought of Jesus. That's why the disciples were well hidden and full of shame in the upper room, where a few hours before they were eating with Jesus. They were scared. So the Ascension is the moment that God the Father says, this loser, he offered his life. And this is what we are supposed to do. Sometimes, to do the right thing, you need to lose something. Yes, and people will think, oh, look, this fool, He was not able, not even to keep his job. Or sometimes, there are things that they are asking you that you cannot give in. Because the gospel might ask you something like that. And Jesus, up to the end, was faithful to his teaching and to the gospel. So this is what Ascension means. That it is true, that if you will lose your life, you will save it. And there is more joy in giving than in receiving.